Jack Nicklaus, Ben Hogan, Tiger Woods. When people talk about the greatest golfers of all time, that's usually who they bring up because of what they did for the game of golf.
Tiger Woods, halfway to the slam.
But might I add that none of them or any other golfer ever will be as legendary for golf fans as John Daly.
I'm just a country boy from a little town in Dardanelle, Arkansas, man.
John Daly was born in Carmichael, California in 1966. Growing up, Daly was not the polished country club kid that many of his peers were. He didn't have a private coach or much etiquette. What he did have was definite athleticism and power. Even at 13 years old, he could hit the ball further than most grown men. But what made Daly really different wasn't just that distance, wasn't just that power that lots of golfers show. It was his attitude.
You're completely different from most athletes. You hate exercise, you despise health food, you smoke, you drink, and it works for you.
He loved golf because golf was hard and because it was his way out of life. By the time he was in high school, Daly was an all-around athlete. Football, baseball, even track. But golf, maybe unexpectedly for some, was where he felt the most in control. When life got messy, when his dad drank too much or yelled too loud or they moved too much, he'd go hit balls until dark. Tiger Woods was known for being hungry, wanting to be the greatest golfer ever. And John Daly is remembered for a lot of other iconic moments, but it's not often talked about how hungry he was to win. Committing to golf in the same way he did his drinking or smoking or gambling and doing it all out, putting 100% of John Daly behind it. And he would as he got older. During his college years, Daly went on to play for the University of Arkansas. Razorback red, big swing, bigger personality. John Daly, as you can imagine from what you might know about him, was a character in school. Between drinking, skipping classes, and clashing with coaches, Daly's talent was often very much so overshadowed by his unpredictability in life. And that unpredictability followed himself to his golf game. One day he'd shoot 65, the next 85. And even then, when he was shooting an 85, people could not take their eyes off him. Despite that inconsistent play, he came out with results. He'd go on to qualify for the US Open as an amateur in 1986, though he would go on to miss the cut that week. It still showed that though John Daly was all over the place in life, in golf, he made things happen. Same thing he would throughout his career. His golf was great, but his lifestyle absolutely wasn't the best it could have been for at least helping his game be the best it could be, which is potentially where today's sponsor, Huel, very much so could have helped him. Huel is fast, nutritious, and complete fuel for busy people. It's not a protein shake or meal replacement, but a complete meal. With their Black Edition powder, their best-selling high-protein complete meal, ready in under 30 seconds, your body gets everything it needs and nothing it doesn't. Whenever I'm working on my videos, I often forget to eat. I know it's crazy. It's something I've been doing since I was a kid, but with Huel, it makes it a lot easier to stay on track, hit my macros, and do what I need to do, and feel good while I'm doing it without forgetting to do it at all. They also recently released their new Daily Greens RTD, developed by registered nutritionists and dietitians with 42 vitamins, minerals, and superfoods, only 25 calories, and 4 grams of fiber with only 1 gram of sugar. My favorite is the apple, and it makes me feel like I'm getting all of these greens that I always forget, to my girlfriend's dismay, to eat in my day-to-day life. So if you think Huel can help you, get their newest products and exclusive releases for 15% off for new customers with my exclusive code Rolu at Huel.com/Rolu with any purchase of $75 or more. And thank you again to Huel for sponsoring this video. But let's get back to my boy, John. In 1987, John Daly went pro, but this wasn't the PGA Tour life you see today. Big money, big moves, big houses. It wasn't exactly that same exact thing. He was grinding. Unglamorous mini tours, truck stops, fast food, and cheap motels. He'd drive across the country in his old car, playing for purses barely big enough to cover the gas money home. He even once said, "I didn't have a plan B. Golf was it. If I failed, I'd just go back to Arkansas and hit balls until something else clicked." And it took him a while for something to click, but after 4 long years, it did, and he earned his PGA Tour card. After only competing in 3 events on the PGA Tour in 1990, he would become a regular in 1991. However, one event stands out bigger than perhaps any other he would play on for the rest of his career. In 1991, the PGA Championship was set at Crooked Stick, a long, tough course designed for control and precision. 2 things, at least at the time, John Daly wasn't exactly known for. And despite having his PGA Tour card that year, he wasn't even in the field at first. See, for every major PGA Tour event, there's alternate spots for those guys that might just not have made the qualification list, but were ready to play if someone dropped out. And John Daly's name was the final 9th name on that list that year. And lucky enough for him, 8 guys dropped out. But he didn't learn that until the night before the event, driving through the night to get there with no practice, no preparation, just untamed and raw ability. And when he stepped on that first tee, that Thursday, John Daly took a deep breath and unleashed a level of golf that perhaps had never ever been seen before in the PGA Championship.
Of course, was the wild thing himself, John Daly.
His drives that week were monstrous. 330, 340, even 350 plus. He was playing a completely different course than everybody else and absolutely overpowering it. And the fans, as you might assume, went ballistic. Golf for so long before that had been a gentleman's game, reserved, controlled, but that week, John Daly's swing wasn't about control. It was about unleashing 4 years of frustration and chaos to excel in a way never seen before. And somehow, it worked. By Sunday, he had a 5-shot lead, and when he tapped in that final putt to win on 18, Crooked Stick erupted. John Daly, the 9th alternate, is the champion. He walked off the green with his arms wide open, like he could not believe what just happened, praying to whoever and thanking them for the moment. That moment. A win best described by Sandy Grady, a columnist for the Philadelphia Daily News in 1991. John Daly seemed heaven sent. A 25-year-old rube with a shaggy tow head and the bulk of a piano mover. A monster-swinging bumpkin out of Dardendale, Arkansas, who trains on Big Macs and 6-packs. The 9th alternate at the PGA. A 1,000-to-1 everyman.
Not too many people can do what happened last week, and I feel in my heart I'm for real. But I'm not going to tell everybody, hey, I'm the best player in the world, because I'm not. I'm just fortunate enough to win a major last week, and I'm just going to go out and try and do what I've been doing all year long and see if I can't keep going.
For the next few years, Daly became golf's most fascinating figure. He was the longest driver on tour by miles. Between 1991 and 1992, he led the PGA Tour in driving distance every single time. And that's after even the young, slinging Tiger Woods came onto the PGA Tour in 1996. Not even Tiger could get near John most of the time. But the craziest part to me, that is rarely talked about, that is really rarely discussed as part of this legend, is that despite his long game being so amazing, his short game, his precision, might have been even better.
Like I've told everybody, I've worked harder on my short game than I have hitting the driver. It was just something that came natural.
People don't realize that when I started playing, all I worked on was my short game. I always fell in love with a flop shot.
He had hands as soft as anyone in the game. He could bomb a 350-yard drive, sure, but then feather a flop shot to a few feet away from the pin. That comparison, duality between John's power and precision, the wild and the unrefined, that's what made him so special. He wasn't textbook. He wasn't predictable. When it clicked, it was magical, not just for some guy trying to escape, but for him and all the others watching him do it. 4 years after Crooked Stick, Daly found himself at St. Andrews for the 1995 Open Championship, golf's oldest, most historic test at the most historic venue in the game overall. The kind of place where hundreds of years of guys in blazers whispered about shot shapes and tradition, and here comes Daly with his blonde-ass mullet and wild-ass swing to absolutely change the game yet again. That week, Daly battled the elements, held off some of the best players in the world, and when it came down to a playoff against Constantino Rocca, he didn't flinch. He walked up the 18th at St. Andrews, mullet flying in the wind, and cemented his place not just in the minds of golf fans, but in the history of golf forever. However, despite all of that brightness, all of that joy for fans and John alike, it wasn't all perfect. Behind the fame and the fans, his personal life had spiraled a bit as he got famous. His drinking and gambling grew as his wallet did, and a string of failed marriages, 4 in total, didn't help the bill. Each one leaving a little bit of a scar, potentially, for John. He'd blow hundreds of thousands at casinos after tournaments, and he'd drink until dawn and still show up to play the next morning. In college, he drank to cope and get through the day. On tour, he drank to celebrate, but also sometimes to forget and cope as well. John was both unbelievably gifted and thoughtful, and also unbelievably self-destructive. But one of my favorite parts of John Daly's story is his battle with my favorite golfer of all time. When Woods first burst onto the PGA Tour scene in 1996, golf changed forever if it hadn't already. He was athletic, scientific, precise, smart at golf, everything realistically. John wasn't. Tiger studied his body, his swing, his diet. He exercised like a Navy SEAL at one point to the detriment of that body, just to be this machine on the golf course. And a lot of times it worked, winning major after major, setting record after record, and looking to challenge the best that had ever been it from a very early point. And for a while, Daly tried to keep up with him, because he admired Tiger and his work ethic and process. But the truth is, they were from different worlds, and it looked like their golf was sometimes as well. Still though, their encounters were legendary. Whenever they happened, you knew there was a story coming out of it, and I know today because Daly told all of those stories in every podcast he's ever been on. One of my favorite being when John Daly asked him to have a drink with him after a round, and instead Tiger said, "No, I'm gonna go practice." And when he came back a few hours from slamming the balls, John Daly was still slamming shots back, and Tiger said he'd be doing the same thing if he was as talented as John. Because the truth is, even the greatest golfer of all time could see the legend that was John Daly. Today, John Daly is a cultural icon. He's 59, plays mostly on the Champions Tour, sometimes making the cut, sometimes doing something, and even on YouTube every once in a while, still rocking the same wild outfits that he once did, the same laugh and that same I am who I am attitude with every shot he takes.
All you amateurs out there, all you want is that sound. It's like the very first girl you ever dated.
He's battled health issues, drug problems, even cancer, and somehow John Daly is still here making his mark. The truth is, he wasn't a spectacular PGA Tour player, not winning from 1995 to 2004, and with his last win coming at the 2004 Buick Invitational, but his golf game is significantly less important to me, to the legend that was this guy who just did not care at all and was unequivocally himself no matter what on the course, playing a game that I don't know if we'll ever be able to see again. After Tiger, golf has gotten a little bit robotic, with Bryson literally making it about as robotic as it could possibly be, Scottie Scheffler doing about everything he can to never stop winning again, and results not necessarily having the same pizzazz, I guess you could say, as it once did. However, no matter what your golf coach is telling you to do, John Daly reminds us that play it your own way, make your own decisions, and figure it out yourself, because you might just end up being one of the most iconic golfers of all time. But thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, maybe check out what happens to the PGA Championship, because it's not the same tournament it once was, or this video about the Tiger Slam. And I'll see all you guys in the next one. Peace.